Machiavelli's success laws. The Prince is usually read as a political tract or a work of history or philosophy, but if you look closer, it contains a number of generic success laws that today's leaders or manager can profit from. The key difference between Machiavelli's manual and other princely guides of his time is that they were nearly all written for rulers who had inherited their kingdoms. The Prince, in contrast, is aimed at the upstart who had seized their power of their own devices and who had to now keep and legitimize that power. This need to gain credibility and show up support is what makes the book still highly relevant today, since the chances are that you, too, owe your current position to hard work, not to patronage or being the scion of a famous family. Among the book's many tips, see more in the Effective Leader section, are the following. Model yourself on the great. Machiavelli's advice here is a unique blend of his own experience in a top-level state affairs and the wisdom he gleaned from a close reading of history. In chapter 6, he writes, "The wise man should always follow the roads that have been trodden by the great, and imitate those who have most excelled, so that if he cannot reach their perfection, he may at least acquire something of its savour." Acting in this, like the skilful archer, who, seeing that the object he would hit is distant and knowing the range of his bow, takes aim much above the destined mark, not designing that his arrow should strike so high, but that flying high may hit the target. If you study those who have successfully gone before you, some of their prowess or wisdom is bound to rub off. Aim a bit higher than you think you are currently capable, so that even if you not achieve everything you set out to do, you will find your main target. You can be creative in your modelling. Machiavelli notes borrowing and adapting the best features of not just one leader but several. When discussing the qualities needed by a new prince, Machiavelli comments, "A prince cannot imitate the actions of Marcus, nor is it necessary that he should imitate all those of Severus, but he should borrow from Severus those parts of his conduct which are needed to serve as a foundation for his government, and from Marcus those suited to maintain it, and render it glorious when once established." Marcus is, of course, the philosopher king, Marcus Aurelius, one of the Rome's great emperors and author of the famous Meditations, and Severus, another successful, if rather more brutal emperor, yet one of the few to die peacefully. Between the two, Machiavelli finds his ideal ruler. Understand that power is about image. In chapter 15, regarding the qualities that may attract promise or blame to a prince, Machiavelli states bluntly, "Since it is my object to write what shall be useful to whosoever understands it, it seems to me better to follow the rule, the real truth of things than an imaginary view of them." He goes on to say, "The manner in which we live, and that in which we ought to live, are things so wide asunder, that he who quits the one to betake himself to other is more likely to destroy than to save himself. Since anyone who would act up to a perfect standard of goodness in everything must be ruined among so many who are not good. It is essential, therefore, for a prince to desire to maintain his position, to have learned how to be other than good, and to use or not to use his goodness as necessity requires." In this masterfully brief chapter, Machiavelli weighs every word, knowing he is going Machiavelli says, it is better to be seen, to be flawed in acceptable areas, and still be successful, than to insist on being morally upright on every issue, but at the cost of losing the kingdom. While this may seem like a justification for tyrants to hang on to power no matter the cost, he is simply pointing out the reality that politics is as much about image as it is substance. The leader who ignores the truth is a fool. Fortune favours the bold. In chapter 7, Machiavelli raises the question of to what extent merit or fortune account for the success of new rulers. Discussing legendary political founders such as Moses, Theseus, and Cyrus, he suggests that great people, although subject to the winds of chance, like all of us, do everything they can to succeed on their own terms. Quote, but while it was their opportunities that made these men fortunate, it was their own merit that enabled them to recognise these opportunities and turn them to account, to glory and prosperity of their country. He also notes that although such virtuous leaders come to power with great difficulty and over a long time frame, once in power they tend to stay. In contrast, a hereditary prince may be given power on a plate, but thereafter find it difficult to keep. A leader has to build foundation and legitimacy and support that will sustain them. People who obtain success through their own abilities by virtue of their difficult journeys to power tend to create great loyalty among followers who have observed their prowess, bravery, etc. In contrast, those who became rulers simply through fortune or good luck, carried as it were on the wings of to their destination, are beholden to those who have installed them, and do not have a power base of their own, with faithful troops who have been with them through previous battles. They have neither the knowledge of how to rule or the power to maintain their position, and like all else that is produced and that grows up rapidly, the first storm will blow them away. Machiavelli was very interested in these questions of how much political success was the result of good luck or merit. He concludes that fortune's role in affairs is about half, which, although seemingly large, should in no way discourage a prince from doing all he can to secure his own advantage. As a scientist of political results, Machiavelli naturally wishes to reduce the role of chancing outcomes, yet he notes that a ruler can create their own luck. Fortune, he suggests, is like a river that can be directed and channeled according to the structures that have been put in place. He also observes, of this, however, I am well persuaded that it is better to be impetuous than cautious, for fortune is a woman who to be kept under must be beaten and roughly handled, and we see that she suffers herself to be more readily mastered by those who so treat her than by those who are more timid in their approaches. Fortune, he believed, really did favour the bold. Be financially prudent. In chapter 16 of Liberty and Miscellaneous, Machiavelli addresses the issue of financial management in a leader. He starts by saying that one should become known as a generous individual, but not to the extent that one acquires a reputation of sumptuous display or wasteful use of state money, because from this naturally follows burdensome taxation and other desperate measures to bring in money, which make a leader hated. Far better, he says, to be seen as something of a miser at the outset, but thanks to careful use of money, be in the position to reward the populace when appropriate, or conduct war without bankrupting the state. Thus, instead of hating, the ruler receives only gratitude. A prince ought to care little though he incur the reproach of miscellaneous, for this is one of those vices which enables him to reign. Machiavelli's warning is timeless, applying equally to today's leaders and their free-spending ways. societies have come to expect government to provide almost everything. In fact, long-term political survival rests, as it always does, on the prosperity of citizens. And this is possible by having a solvent state that spends less and is able, therefore, to tax less, leaving people with more money in their pockets. His view on this matter is black and white. In our own days, we have seen no prince accomplish great results, save those who have been accounted miserly. All others have been ruined. The advice is applicable to the manager of any organisation or enterprise of today. Machiavelli's final, powerful message. The prince was originally dedicated to Giuliano de' Medici, son of Lorenzo the Magnificent. But after his early death, the work was dedicated to his nephew, Lorenzo, Duke of Urbino, who himself died in 1519. Possibly as a result, the book was not published during Machiavelli's lifetime and was only circulated as a manuscript. Fate may have played a hand here, as the Medici would probably have been least receptive readers of the work today. From this correspondence, and from his prefacing letter to the book, we know that Machiavelli had high estimation of his own powers. Despite never being employed again after the return of the Medici to power in 1512, he may have seen it fitting that his insights into statecraft found an audience much greater than a single prince. Indeed, the rousing last chapter, although a call for some individual to mount the stage and make Italy a great power, also seems to address the reader of any age and place in mentioning that all illustrious names he has talked of in his book, he points out. For although these men were singular and extraordinary, after all they were but men, not one of whom had so great an opportunity as now presents itself to you, for their undertakings were not more just than this, nor more easy, nor was God more their friend than yours. We should not be overawed by the fame or glory of those who have gone before, or even those better known figures who are our contemporaries. Whatever they have achieved, Machiavelli says, we can do too. In fact, armed with the wisdom of his book, and taking note to avoiding their mistakes